Hello BookTube. Well, first off, I have to say welcome to all my new subscribers and a big thank you to all the folks out there who are doing shout-outs to small BookTube video channels. I really do appreciate the support and I really am appreciating the new subscribers. I hope you will continue to enjoy my videos. Anyway, so today is another weekly reads and I actually got through some books this week. You see, I don't know what happened, but my sister must have decided somewhere along the line that it had not reached its reading goals, and so it gave me a good bout of bronchitis. So today is the first day that I'm not on antibiotics. I'm finally past that. I think I'm past the big hacking job for the day, and about time I got on with it. I'm not going to do this in the order in which I read them. I'm going to do this from least favorite to favorite, because then at least we can end on a positive note. So the first book that I want to talk about is The Method by Shannon Kirk. Now, I knew that after I'd finished reading Wole, surprise, I wonder which book is coming last. After I finished reading Wole, I knew that whatever I picked up was going to disappoint. So I thought, well, let's just go with a book that I think is going to disappoint anyway. So I picked this up and I wasn't surprised. Now, this is an interesting thriller. There's a girl, she's 16, she's very pregnant, she's 8 months pregnant, and she gets kidnapped. But, as it says on the front, they thought she was the victim, but they're the ones in danger. Now, this girl is a bit of a sociopath. She does not really experience emotion, although they try and talk your way around that and say that she can switch it off at will. But it's how she manages to escape and get the better of her victim, well, of her victims, of her captors. Now, this book I thought was a bit ridiculous because, for one, she is super intelligent. At the age of 6, she was able to identify when a gunman came into their grade 1 classroom that he was either tripping out on, she named 3 drugs. That is unrealistic. 6-year-olds don't know that. Not unless they're exposed to it. But she wouldn't have been, because her mom is a super lawyer, 98% success rate, and her father is a scientist and former Navy SEAL, because one of the above was just not good enough. The guy that got her pregnant, her boyfriend, was also super genius at language. And then we meet the FBI agents. The one guy, the leader of the two, he had super fantastic eyesight, and his partner had super fantastic smell. At this point I started to feel that this belonged in DC Comics and not quite in a literature section. Not that this was literature, but anyway. And yeah, you know, it was just too crazy for words. And for all her intelligence, she really knew how to waste her time. Oh, and the guys that caught her, they were super stupid. So at the end of the day, there wasn't really much in the line of suspense. And I just, yeah, it kept me entertained. I mean, when you're on medication, etc., your brain doesn't work so well. The next one is The Lion and the Jewel by Wole Soyinka. Now, this is a play. As I said in my previous video, when I was still currently reading this, he is a Nigerian author and one of the first, I think, African authors to win the Nobel Prize. But anyway, so I went into this with quite high expectations and I was expecting commentary that I would be able to understand. Now, there's a reason why I didn't understand this. I was following it when you had the young teacher who was all for modernism and advancement, etc., bringing in transport, you know, connecting with the civilized as opposed to the traditional cultural world. And then you had the chief of the tribe, who is the lion, and he is very much for the tradition. And both of them are trying to win the hand of the girl, city. And I can't say that the ending was very clear. I could see it all the way up until the point where something happens. And I'm not too sure whether the message is that the tradition or the culture is not willing to change it, that they haven't got the mindset to, or showing it in a negative light. Because I don't want to spoil the ending because this is like 3 pages from the end. But it left me confused and I'm not too sure what to make of it. But up until that point, I was really impressed with this. Well, I'm still really impressed with this. I think this must have been quite a production to see, because you have a play within a play, as you have the characters reenacting things that happened in the past. And that was quite entertaining. And I'm sure with the traditional music and things like that, when they do the dancing, that must also be quite something to watch. But obviously that doesn't translate too well on paper. It depends on your imagination. And yeah, as I said, that ending kind of threw me. I was not too sure where it was going. Other than the fact that maybe it was showing that the traditional side is the older and wiser side, but then why would he have done that? I don't get it. Anyway, so the next book that I finished was Wole by Hilary Mantel. And boy, did I absolutely love this. Thankfully, I had read Dissolution beforehand, because I kind of then knew the characters that were kind of involved. Because if I'd read this without having read Dissolution and went in with my general knowledge, I would have been completely lost. But I already had an idea as to who Thomas Cromwell was, and that really made it quite clear for me. Although I must admit, Dissolution had such a different take on him. He seemed so much colder and more cruel. But I left this book absolutely fascinated with him. I walked these pages with him and how he was thinking and what he was thinking, and I grew to love this bloke. I thought he was fabulous, even though he wasn't necessarily doing the nicest of things. But when you're following with his justification, you can see why it's happening. The other thing is that the way that this, I can't say that we ever did much of British history at school. Being in Africa, you know, we've got our own history to deal with. But what I had gathered of Henry VIII before this was that he was pretty much a fickle guy, and, you know, he screwed up the whole church thing because he wanted to, you know, marry another woman. In fact, I didn't even realize that he'd been married to Catherine for as long as he had. And while I was reading this, I was thinking, you know, we owe a lot to what happened in that time to the world that we have today, where in most countries you have freedom of choice of religion. And I mean, that's a lot to be thankful for. I mean, I wouldn't want to live in a day and age where you're going to get stuck on a stake and burnt alive just because you said that was bread and not the body of God. So I think that the events that happened in here were also really interesting, and watching Cromwell working out the laws and trying to get around things without offending people, because these times were horribly superstitious. I mean, it's one of the reasons why Macbeth, which was written quite some time afterwards, had such an effect on people with the opening of the play with the witches, because people were horribly superstitious. And to turn around and say, well, no, we're leaving that philosophy or that theory of religion, and we're going to do something different, that would have been horribly blasphemous. So I was really impressed with this. Even to Thomas More at the end, and what happened to him, I felt for him, even though I couldn't say that I liked him in the slightest. So Hilary Mantel really managed to make me feel stuff with this. It was a long read, it took me ages, and if it wasn't for the bronchitis, I'd probably still be on this, and the other two, well, I would have finished the other one, the play, but I wouldn't have started the method. So, yeah. But this was definitely worth reading. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then the book that I've picked up now to read is Autumn by Ali Smith. I think I've had my palate cleanser with the method, because I didn't want to pick up something and then be disappointed, because I was, you know, wanting something more along the same lines. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I'm past page 50, and I'm really loving the way it's going. And it's funny how easy it is in this one to read the her more lax approach to punctuation than I did in How to Be Both, because my book started with The Artist, where it was completely confusing. I ended up reading that opening to the kids at school and told them, this is why you blooming well need to put in full stops, man. But anyway, so that was my reading wrap-up for the week. At least it was a good reading wrap-up. I don't know how busy I'm going to be this week, what with being off for 4 days. I'm a bit behind now, so we're going to have to see how life goes along. But I think I'm going to film another video today and then upload it on Wednesday. So hopefully you'll see me on Wednesday again. Bye for now.